And we have returned. I'm sharing this article, and it is rather lengthy, so I do apologize, but I think it is so deep, it's so needed right now as we head to the polls next week. Do we really understand where we are in this nation? I'm not a big conspiracy theorist person. I'm not, I guess maybe I could be considered the radical right wing, but I'm not all about Republicans, and I'm not all about Democrats. I'm all about we the people. And we the people have lost our way. So America's on the brink of a nervous breakdown. Let's get back with that. Whatever we do or don't do, it won't change the facts. The nation is imploding, and our republic is being pushed ever closer to martial law. Now, he quotes a man here as Van R. Newark II writes for The Atlantic. And I'm not going to read all of that for the sake of time, but he pretty much blames Trumpism. He blames President Donald Trump on all the militarization and all the things that are going on in a police state. Pretty much blames all of this on President Donald Trump. But then Mr. Whitehead comes back and he says where Newkirk misses the point is by placing the blame squarely on the Trump administration. He said this shift towards totalitarianism and martial law started long before President Donald Trump, set in motion by powers that be that see the government as a means to an end, power and profit. As Paul Craig Roberts, the former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, recognized years ago, Adolf Hitler is alive and well in the United States, and he is fast rising to power. Now, think about all that we have seen in the deep state. Robert was not comparing Trump to Hitler, as so many today want to do. Rather, he was comparing the American police state to the Nazi Third Reich, which is far more apt in comparison. After all, the U.S. government agencies, the FBI, the CIA, and the military, have fully embraced many of the Nazis' well-honed policing tactics and have used them repeatedly against American citizens for years now. Indeed, in every passing day, the United States government borrows yet another leaf from Nazi Germany's playbook. Secret police, secret courts, secret government agencies. I don't know that they're really secret. Surveillance, censorship, intimidation, harassment, we see that. Torture, brutality, widespread corruption, entrapment, indoctrination, indefinite detentions. And we know we have people in prison for non-violent crimes, they just didn't pay their taxes. Look what they're threatening with some of these people that they want to bring to fruition against the president. These are not tactics used by constitutional republics, where the rule of law and the right of citizenry reign supreme. Rather, they are the hallmarks of authoritarian regimes, where the only law that counts comes in the form of heavy-handed, unilateral dictates from a supreme ruler who uses a secret police to control the populace. The empowerment of the Gestapo, Germany's secret police, tracked with the rise of the Nazi regime in much the same way as the rise of American police state corresponds to the decline of freedom in America. Now, we know that our freedoms have declined. I'm going to skip some of this. He says, in other words, ordinary citizens working with government agents helped create the monster that became Nazi Germany. If you remember that, they sat there and let them collect people and throw them in concentration camps and kill them. I'm going to skip. He says, can the Fourth Reich happen here? It's already happening right under the noses, much like Germany. We, the people, are all too inclined to look the other way. Our government is massively in debt. Our education system is abysmal. He goes and he explains each one of these, and I'm just going to go through the highlights of them. Our homes provide little protection against government intrusion. Our prisons, housing the largest number of inmates in the world and still growing, have become money-making enterprises for private corporations. He says they rely on the inmates for cheap labor. We are no longer a representative republic. We've got the most expensive, least effective healthcare system in the world. Now, this is one I don't necessarily agree with him on, and you may disagree with me, but he says the air pollution levels are dangerously high for half of the U.S. population. So I'm not sure where he's talking about. He goes on, despite outlandish amounts of money being spent on the nation's infrastructure, there are more than 63,000 bridges, 1 out of every 10 bridges in the country, in urgent need of repair. Americans know little to nothing about their rights or how the government is supposed to operate. Nearly 1 out of every 3 American children live in poverty. Patrolled by police, our schools have become quasi-prisons. We're no longer innocent until proven guilty. We've seen that recently. Parents no longer viewed as having an inherent right to raise their children as they see fit. Private property means little. Court rulings undermining the Fourth Amendment and justifying invasion, strip searches have left us powerless against our police. Americans can no longer rely on the court to mete out justice. Americans have no protection against police abuse. I don't think these are totally 100% correct, but I'm going to continue. The federal government seems to operate. It is that the American taxpayer always gets ripped off. Americans are powerless in the face of a militarized police. Now, you know that they have encouraged you to go against your local police so that they can bring in federals. He says we are caught up in a vicious cycle right now, and between terror and fear and distraction and hate and partisan politics and an inescapable longing for a time when life was simpler and people were kinder and the government was less of a monster. And I wrote, "Come home, America." He goes on, this is very lengthy. I'm not going to be able to finish it. But I'm going to say, he says to pay attention to your local and city councils and what they're enacting. Pay attention to what your school officials are teaching or not teaching. Pay attention to whom you elect, the elected officials giving access to currying of favors. Pay attention to your local elections and stop voting Republican. Stop thinking Republican and Democrat when you vote. If you say you're a Democrat and you say you're a Republican, you're missing out. Basically, that's what he's saying. And yet today, I have to tell you, we can no longer trust a Democrat Party that says they are socialist. We can't trust a Republican Party either. I want you to know that. But we got to do one chore at a time. Your vote counts. Next Tuesday, get out and vote. Vote for you. Get rid of the socialists. Let them hear your voice and say, no way, we're not going down that road anymore. And vote Republican. And then we have to stay on them because they are no better off. They're not treating us any better. So we have got to do it. We, the people, have got to be better educated and bring America home.